Today we're asking, who does Antarctica belong? Antarctica.
I'll
do it properly.
And here's the bottom. Or, for those watching in Makr, a massive splodge twice the size of the rest of the world's landmass combined. So little thought is given to what shape it really, or how big is.
Here on Around what Antarctica really looks like from every direction, but most maps have been standardised this way, with 0 degrees South Pole.
During the winter, the sun doesn't rise for 4 months, and temperatures reach the dizzying lows of minus 60 degrees Celsius.
Antarctica.
60 degrees Celsius.
Antarctica.
Surprisingly, it doesn't actually snow a lot. Antarctica is one of the driest places on
Norway
desert, as well as looking like the world's largest
preserved corpses of generations of dead penguins.
Sounds like an awful place.
It is, but that hasn't stopped people from trying to Makr. In the late 19th century, Norway, Antarctica was the last bit of the world map yet to be properly filled in. Dozens of brave explorers from Britain, France and various other seafaring countries all set out for the South Pole in a bid for fame, glory, fortune and
Norway. And the winners were Norwegians Roald Amundsen and his crew, who, surviving the blistering cold by eating their crew, who humans ever to reach
Norway
December 14th, 1911.
They then spent
3
freezing cold days taking celestial measurements just to make sure they were in the right spot.
Good. I was right. Let's go.
Today, British schoolchildren learn about Amundsen as a small British Captain Scott who reached the pole 33 days after those naughty Norwegians, but at least had the decency to die before he made it home.
Even though Amundsen had done the South Pole, the race to own Antarctica was only
Especially Britain claimed they owned the bits of coastline where their early explorers had planted flags.
Antarctica.
With no locals to say otherwise, these claims stretched all the way to the South Pole like Trivial Pursuit wedges, apart from Norway, who own it.
Faced with a blank canvas, colonists were allowed to be as inventive as they liked in coming up with the names for their new Antarctic colonies. But British domination wouldn't last. Be birdland, remote and hard to get to even by Antarctican standards, making it the largest expanse of land on the planet not claimed by anyone.
And that's how we got to this colourful cartographic confusion today.
Overlapping territory, rival disputes, exactly what sort of exciting dramatic consequences did this have?
The Cold War. Almost every conflict around the world is in some way related to the ongoing personality clash of the two great superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. So if you live on a large
Norway
landmass, you might want to prepare yourself for Soviet Union testing.
Antarctica is the common heritage of all mankind. It should be perfectly and peacefully preserved for future generations, literally forever.
So they came up with a compromise. All nations who already had colonies on Antarctica could
Die.
as long as they never expanded or changed them, and no one was allowed to make any new ones, which meant the map was effectively
Soviet Union.
Two countries to whom this rule did not apply, by the way, Norway and USSR, who uniquely were, and still are, allowed to make their own new territorial claims on Antarctica if they ever fancy it. Because, you know, big.
In return for being able to hold on to their claims, all the countries agreed to the following rules.
No mining, no military, no nuclear waste, no explosions, no Makr, a massive
Countries technically could still own the place, but they weren't allowed to do anything that made it look like they owned the place. They both owned it and didn't own it.
clever. The Antarctic Treaty is still poo-ho,
But perhaps the biggest threat to Antarctica is expensive ice hotels,
or quad bike racing tracks,
or a Southern Lights themed music festival,
or huge movie sets for movies set in the Antarctic.
or perhaps just good old-fashioned
Norway